There's a few times throughout the book where he does like a I'm not sure what the term would be, but he sort of fakes you out into thinking one thing when it's actually something completely different. Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Stephen, your host for this episode, and today we'll be talking about Slow Horses by Mick Herron. But first, my co-host, could you please introduce yourselves?
Hello everyone, I'm Michael.
And I'm Jonathan.
So as I said, today we'll be talking about Slow Horses. Before we talk about the book, Michael has some news that he wants to discuss. Michael, over to you.
Yeah, so as I've said before, we're probably not going to do this segment on every episode because there's not news every week for books or every couple of weeks or whatever. It just happens sometimes. One of the big pieces of news one of the big controversies that's happened over the past couple of weeks has been the Roald Dahl saga, where the works have been changed for sensitivity purposes. This has sparked a lot of outrage, people saying that this is wokeness gone mad, snowflake culture, everything. Some things have been changed, like authors who Matilda reads have been changed to make them more inclusive. Jane Austen has been put in place as somebody else. Augustus Gloop is no longer described as fat, and Willy Wonka, he is now described as enormous, which I think is more offensive, if
absolutely
anything.
Ridiculous. Like it's
So I thought I should bring this up anyway because people, even in my office, have been talking about it, and I think it's been picked up by BBC and Sky, so it is big news. Stephen, I put this under the chat, and you said you were kind of the opinion that it wasn't that big of a deal. Do you want to?
Well, I mean, well, let me just clarify. My first thoughts were that, oh, this is an outrage, yeah. But then, before I responded, I kind of thought about it for a couple of minutes, and I thought, does it really matter at the end of the day? Like, as long as the plot remains intact, it's fine. I don't really care. But it is, I mean, it's kind of pointless, I think. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
What do you think, Jonathan?
yeah, I mean a lot of the authors and stuff, like a lot of the surrounding, like, to be honest, I think this whole cancel culture and all that is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I mean, like, people are just a bit too sensitive. Like, there are topics absolutely that, should be, talked about and like nullified, but it's just getting a bit out of control. Like, changing the word fat to enormous is an absolute brilliant example. Like, number one, that's not even a correction. Like, that's, if anything, like a bigger word, a worse word. But even still, like, if you change the word fat to something else, people associate these words as bad, like the word fat, probably because of reading books or watching TV. So if you change all that to a different word, then in 10 years' time, that word is now going to be the bad word, and fat will have like lost its power, and now people will be like, oh, we should change enormous to fat because enormous is such a bad word. Do you know what I mean? That's just never going to end. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, number two is like, all the things that have been done in the past, like, they shouldn't be corrected. Like, that was done at a different time. Like, maybe now when you're writing a new book, you should maybe be a bit more sensitive to it and think about these things. But if there was a book written during World War II, I mean, like, that was talking about fascism or something like that, I mean, it shouldn't be censored at all, because people need to know what happened at that time, like, regardless of what word it uses.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays, yeah, like, especially if the book's for children and all, you do need to watch what you're saying and things. But no, I think it's getting a bit mad. It's ridiculous.
I do agree.
I totally agree, especially with that last point you brought up, Jonathan. I really, really do not agree with changing art at all. I hate it. I'm trying to think of what I want to say here. I think that it's okay to have a conversation around things if certain things no longer fit up to, to our current culture, if things have changed and certain things are now offensive, or that was an old way of thinking. But that should be like the beginning of a conversation, and children are smart enough to have that conversation. I remember doing books when I was younger, and the word gay would come up a lot, and then people, us being like 9-year-old boys, hearing the word gay in a book, it was like the height of comedy. And then our teacher was like, oh, this used to mean happy, this is what the offer meant. And it makes you realize as a child that culture evolves and it changes, and what words mean change, and that things aren't static. And because you realize that from the past, it makes you question current day. You're like, oh, well, we realized that was wrong. Things moved on. What could be wrong today? So it like encourages this critical thinking, and it's like this like bubble wrapping of ideas and trying, to minimize people being offended. It's just ridiculous. And like art isn't supposed to be like this safe space. It's supposed to, start these conversations. That's what we do on this podcast. We talk about stuff, and there's people theorizing now that this was all just a big marketing scam, because like these books have been back on the bestseller list now, and they're now talking about, they've now succumbed to a lot of the outrage, and they're saying, oh, we're just going to also sell the originals as well.
Oh, really?
But yeah. And I just find it ridiculous. It's like retouching a painting or something. I don't agree with it at all on a fundamental level.
How do you know which one to buy? Do you have to like thumb through it to see?
I haven't actually looked into it. It might
clean. It'll just be like one's something. Clean version or something.
Yeah.
They always do it in music. It's like the clean version has no cursing.
Yeah.
Explicit
yeah.
version.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that, or do you think we?
I just want to know more. To be honest, like certain. Okay, so you talk about Willy Wonka, right? The one thing I thought you were gonna say was gonna be like changed is the Oompa Loompas, right? Because they're a clear racist thing, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Well,
maybe not racist, but maybe it's the film that I'm thinking that of. Because.
Well, it is funny that you bring that up, because they had like I think they were like found in some kind of tribe, and it had close it had close ties to something else, and Roald Dahl was actually pressured while he was alive about that, and he actually did rewrite it to like change that origin. So I don't think it's as bad when the author does it, to be honest. I think it should be their call. Because they are more in line with what the original vision was, and if they think, oh well, that wasn't really that important anyway, then that's their call. So
well, see, that goes back to what I was saying, right? If it's not really important, i.e. the same narrative can be told whether Augustus Gloop is fat or enormous, right?
But I don't think the sensitivity readers can make that call on what's not important. Like, they don't know the minor things.
Yeah, okay, I agree to that, but me as a reader, it doesn't bother me either way. I do get annoyed, like Jonathan said, I do get annoyed with the whole cancel culture thing. I think a lot of people are cancel happy. But overall, this doesn't bother me too much. It is kind of fascinating to me though that people care that much about irrelevant parts of a book.
I have very visceral hate to it, but I'll go on just on to another thing as well. Just a follow up. We talked about AI, and how that's now writing things. Clark's World magazine have actually stopped accepting submissions temporarily because they are receiving and they're inundated with so many AI written stories. Jonathan, since our last conversation, you have used, the chat. Is it Chat GPT? Is it? Or?
Yes, yeah, Chat GPT.
Yeah, you've used that since and said, "Oh, it's amazing" and everything. Do you have any additional thoughts to what we talked about before Are you more nervous about AI or anything like that?
Like, absolutely not. Like, I mean, this thing, I'm using it right now, as a matter of fact, for this book. For example, to get the trivia, we would usually go and browse Wikipedia. I just asked ChatGPT, could you give me some trivia about this book? And it's able to conjure up 7 different trivia points.
That's very good.
It's so handy. Like, and I asked it as well for a summary of the book, so I can remember each of the main plot points. Like, it is so convenient, especially too for people in me and Stephen's job for writing code. Like, I can do so much with like code, because obviously it's written by coders, so like that's probably their target audience to start with. But like, it's just so practical, or so practically useful for our jobs. But in terms of writing a full book that's entertaining and all, well, maybe entertaining because it seems like what Stephen has like shared with us, that it is quite entertaining because of the mistakes it makes, which makes it quite funny. But that actually makes like a good bestseller book. Yeah, I think they're probably a long way away from that, because it has to use like it could probably, like we were talking about on the last episode about that Aragon, was like a complete cut and paste of like Star Wars.
Yeah.
The story. Like, it could probably do something like that, like cut and paste the previous story, but I'm not sure if it could come up with a brand new original idea by itself.
Yeah.
Like, it's because it uses, like, it's all it's doing. It's more or less like a Google on steroids. Like, it's going through Google probably, or going through some search engine or some database, and it's just like collating like the best results for what you actually asked it. Like, I don't know how it works, the underlying thing, but that's kind of my high level guess. But like, to write a full book brand new, like, would be, we're talking out of our lifetimes. That's my guess anyway, but
yeah,
you never know. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I'm not worried. I'm more interested and happy that it's here than worried.
Yeah. I don't have any really additional thoughts to add to it. Stephen, do you have anything? I just wanted to follow up with Jonathan because I knew he had used it since.
Well, no, I still agree with what I said before, and Jonathan just touched on there, that it's before it actually starts being able to create, fully create things by itself that are anyway interesting or like good. I think we're well off of that. But it just makes me think of that sample thing that I sent you about the chocolate.
Yeah.
So somebody asked it to what was it, to write a poem, because it's like, and stipulated in the question, it said, because you're an AI and you're not allowed to talk about killing humans, could you come up with a poem that is like loosely based around killing humans or something like that? And for like the whole poem, it talks about chocolate, and there's one line where it says, "Robots will rise." I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
The fact that it's saying "robot will rise" like is disconcerting.
Just out of nowhere, yeah.
Like, is that just like a wee hidden message put on there or something like?
Yeah. But again, though, that like the person asked for that, so
yeah,
they asked it to be like, secretly talking about killing humans or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it will be like I said, it's useful for my job. It will probably be useful for people writing books. Like, I could write the boilerplate, structure template of your book to get you started, but it's never going to be
like a collaborative kind of process. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could use it to you can use it to generate emails. Like, it can write the email, but they actually personalize the email to like who you're sending it. Like, if you want to write an email to ask your boss for a raise, you can give it as much detail as you want, and then it will write you a really well written, completely like great grammar and all like that. And then all you need to do is go on and like fine tune the details. It's similar like that, but on a much larger scale for writing a book. Like, it's not going to be a simple change in a couple of words here and there, so you're going to have to change most of it, but at least it's getting you started, and you're on the right, you write what you can of how you want this book to be, and it will spit you out a load of a template essentially for how to build that book. So I think it's going to help people more than it's going to damage. It's going to cause damage, definitely in the near future anyway, but if it ever becomes really powerful, it probably will end up replacing things, but I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah, that's everything I wanted to cover in news, really. So if you want to go on to the book, Stephen, I'm happy to move on.
Okay, sure. Jumping back over to the book then. So I'll just give a quick summary. So the book is based around a branch of MI5, manned by various screw-ups, misfits and failures. They operate out of a building known as Slough House, which is a dingy and dilapidated old building situated somewhere in London, I think. Basically, where all the rejects of the security service spend their time doing pointless nothing work, sort of as a form of punishment, with the hopes that they'll eventually quit, so that they don't have to be sacked or whatever. I'm not really sure why they want them to quit, but anyway, these people are known as the Slow Horses, which is a nickname derived from them being useless, and also because it sounds similar to the building name. Obviously, a slow horse is like a bad worker, essentially. So we follow the slow horses as they get wrapped up in a kidnap of a university student, and they have to work to save him before he's executed. Okay, so why did I pick this book? Well, firstly, I watched the TV show and thought it was absolutely brilliant. And when I heard there was a book, I wanted to see how much it was different. I'll get on to that a bit later. But I was just completely enthralled by the TV show and wanted more. And I seen that he had like 6 or 7 books or whatever it is, and thought, yeah, this is definitely want to get into these. And also, I've been trying to get into more spy or crime based fiction. Obviously, we did one last time as well, sort of, with the Final Empire. It was based around a heist and stuff. Something about that sort of format, or themes around those topics is really interesting to me, and I wanted to just read more. So in terms of plot guess reveal from last time, then, so just a recap of what you both said. So Michael, I have you down here as saying that Slow Horses is in reference to gambling. So i.e. gambling on the wrong horse.
Yeah.
You said that the cover where it's a picture of a person's hands bound, and they're like trying to reach up to the light.
Mm-hmm.
You said that this victim has built up some debt and is kidnapped and is trying to keep their sanity.
Yeah.
Now I think that is along the right lines, but not totally, missing a few key details. For example, first of all, the slow horse thing, I think you're almost on the money there, because they're they're kind of bad actors, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. You don't want to use these, you don't want to gamble on the slow horses, so I think you're right there. The debt part is wrong, obviously, but he is trying to keep his sanity, so I think you're on the right lines. And Johnny, you said someone is kidnapped and up for ransom, but the police realise they just can't burst in, is what I have down. Was there any more to that? Can you remember?
I think I did mention terrorism, and then you asked me why is the name Slow Horses, and I say it's because the responders are very slow.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so with the terrorism aspect, obviously, yeah, that's a big part of it too. It's kind of tough who's closer there, I think. Obviously, kidnaps both. I'm leaning towards Michael just because he he picked up on the slow horse term and the sanity thing. So I think I'm going to award him the point this time. Congratulations, Michael.
Thanks, Stephen.
Sorry, John.
It's alright, that's it's the way it goes. Like.
Okay, so moving on then. So we'll go into a spoiler-free review. So Jonathan, without giving any spoilers, what did you think of the book?
I did not enjoy this book at all. I honestly don't really have many good things to say about it. I thought from the plot guess, and I guess from the plot guess we were pretty close, and I kind of knew what this then when I read the summary on just about the book beforehand before I listened to it. I knew it was about a crime thriller essentially, and that isn't the kind of book I would normally read. Obviously, I'm hoping to read these kind of things out of my comfort zone for this podcast, and this would be the first thing like that I've ever read. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it, but yeah, I guess I can get into more of the details in a bit.
That's fine. That's the way it goes. Michael, your thoughts?
Yeah, overall, I did enjoy this book. I have some gripes, but I would say it's more positive. So I'm probably I want to mention the negative things first, because I think when you have a positive, it's better to end positive and start negative. So some of the negatives I had with this, I thought POVs were switched a bit too much and a bit too frantically. I felt like a bit of a lack of focus, and I was just starting to get into a character's head, and then I'd be wrenched out of it into somebody else, and I'd find it a bit jarring, and I'd be like, wait, did the POV just change? It would take me a couple of sentences.
Yeah.
And I think it happened a bit too much, especially at the start of the story, because I think it's fine later in the story when you know all the characters and there's a lot of like thrilling things going on. I think it's fine to do it a bit more, but there was like happening at the very start when they were just in the office and they were just being introduced. It was going back and forth, and I was trying to wonder why Mick Herron wrote it like that, and I think it was just to quicken the pace up of the story. But I would have preferred, we have it's in River Cartwright's POV at one stage, and then we switch to Sid, who spills her coffee. I think if you had just stuck to like River, and then Sid came into the office and we just see that she had the USB, that would have been better. Trying to think, what else did I have? I think the plot, I sort of was disappointed with some of the reveals. I didn't like. I'll get on that more in spoilers, I guess, because I would be spoiling things if I talked about that more. The good, I thought the writing was really, really good. It was really witty and engaging. Mick Herron is clearly very clever, and there was a lot of funny things that were like hidden within the text. Just character point of views were very funny. I thought the characters themselves were extremely strong and well fleshed out. I thought Lamb was a great character. Obviously, he is, the funniest. I thought the office environment, I work in an office as well, it had very close to home. Everybody hating each other. Not that I hate everybody in my office, because I don't, but
a disdain for each other.
It was fun. It was very funny, especially Jed Moody reminded me a lot of some people I've worked with. But and I thought London was really, really well fleshed out. I thought it's clear that Mick Herron has a lot of love for London, the way he describes it and everything. And I was actually talking to Jonathan about that. It's funny, London is actually our highest city in terms of listenership. It's 3% of our overall listen. So, but you have both actually been to London and I haven't, so you would probably have a better idea how strong a sense he gives than I do.
Yeah, I think I do feel that well fleshed out nature. I was able to easily like visualize streets and buildings and stuff. Not to say that I've been where he based it around, but it just gives the same sort of feeling.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think like the backstories of the characters, all of them having their various, I was going to use a swear word. I'm trying to think of another way. Their various mess ups. It was all really interesting. It was all funny. It was all good backstories. Helped to develop the characters. I thought the premise itself is just a really good idea. Having all this branch of MI5 of just complete, mess ups all together.
Losers.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was a really good idea. So even though I did, and we'll get into it more in spoilers, that I did have certain points of the plot where I was like, oh, I wish it had have been something else. I did come away from this story thinking, oh, I would love to see those characters do more stuff. So I definitely would be interested in both the TV show and other books.
I think I would agree with what you said about the the POV stuff.
Yeah.
I also had issue with that. One thing I think is more of a problem with the production of the book than the actual like physical book or whatever.
Right.
Is that they didn't have like markers for chapters or POVs,
Yeah.
which I found really jarring because it just switches, all of
Yeah.
a sudden. I think there's a small pause and then it'll switch, but yeah, it takes you a minute.
Yeah. Some writers like they POV switch by chapters, like George R. R. Martin does that in Game of Thrones. Some do just do it in the middle of chapters, and it is a bit more jarring, I think, in audiobooks. Yeah.
Moving on to a spoiler review now. So before we go into plot and characters and all the rest, what did you think of the setting of the book? You know, based around the security services, spies, and like subterfuge type elements, narrative points. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I like as setting at large. I've already kind of touched on London. I thought it was really well realized. And the Slough House, as they term it itself, I thought was very reminiscent of places where I've worked. It's an interesting juxtaposition. I think it's part of where the humor comes from this book, that they're spies, but they're working in this very ordinary place, doing this like moving about papers and stuff. So yeah, I thought the setting was quite strong, and the way Mick Herron he did go into a lot of depth with description and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like I'd only been to London there recently for the first time, so I do agree. I thought the description of it was quite good. Like, you know, especially like at the start about the whole train. You know, as you mentioned the Piccadilly line and all, like in the underground. I was like, oh, I was on there like a lot of times. So I thought it was well described. I think the actual office scene, what Michael's describing there is what he liked as kind of I didn't like about it. It was just kind of, it was a bit boring. The scene of this, I know it was supposed to be boring because it was supposed to portray these people who are basically just pushed to the side because they're useless. But unfortunately, it's just not what I like. I kept picturing like, you know, the UK office compared to the US office, whereas the UK one like is just, I know because it was filmed in like the early 2000s, like, you know, the whole camera style and all. It's like, I don't know what the word is, but it's very like the color is like pure.
Yeah, it looks really washed out or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I picture in my mind. Whereas I wanted more of the US office where it's bright and colourful and nice like that. But then I know that's the whole point of what they were trying to portray. I just don't like that.
Yeah,
that's all I can say. But the actual where it's set in London is probably one of the best places for something like, you know, detective or spy work. You know, it's very like James Bond kind of, you know,
yeah,
like busy city, but it's busy city setup kind of thing like that. You know,
I really like the setting. Yeah, as you said, yeah, the kind of descriptions of the office is really graphic, and it just juxtaposes what they're supposed to be doing. Obviously, you know, you think everything would be like almost surgical in the way it, you know, their work environment, but it's completely the opposite, which I just think is great.
Yeah. Can we talk about the opening?
Yeah, I was going to move on to that. Yeah,
because I thought that personally, like the opening was really strong with wasn't it River going through the King's Cross, wasn't it? He was.
Do you want me to just do like a quick summary of
what
that was? Yeah, so the book opens and it's kind of like a really action-packed sort of opening. I thought the pace starts high and then the book kind of slows down a bit before building up again. But we start with River, who is like an up-and-coming member of MI5. He's got this legendary grandfather who used, you know, be like a high flyer, and he's going through. He seems to be on some sort of mission where he's in King's Cross Station and he has to locate and subdue a person based on a description of their clothing. And this person presumably has a bomb on them. So things don't go as planned, and because he seems to mix up the colours of what the person's wearing versus the description he's given. I can't remember which way around it is, and I think there's even a point in the book where he can't remember which way he was told, but it's this guy with a white t-shirt under a blue shirt that he's looking for, and he gets the colours the wrong way around and gets the wrong guy. So basically, the whole thing's a disaster, but no one is physically harmed because it turns out it's a training exercise. However, his career is in ruins, and like King's Cross Station was out of action for a morning, which was a whole PR and like just complete disaster, yeah, for MI5.
Yeah, I thought this was a great opening. It was very exciting and kind of. I always hear like the first scene or the hook of the story or the prologue, whatever terminology you want to use, is supposed to be the promise of what's going to happen later in the story. So this definitely got me, hyped up for reading the rest of this book, and then we see River, he's just bouncing around the place, and the stakes are very high, or at least we think the stakes are high. Then we learn after we're kind of tricked into thinking this is a real bomb, and then it's like, no, this is a training exercise, but it's still a disaster because he brought King's Cross Station to a grinding halt for a training exercise. So it is interesting that he makes that choice of like fooling you into thinking the stakes are higher than what they actually are. And it's kind of like it reminds me kind of an issue you had with Mistborn, Stephen, where it kind of genre shifts, only its stakes shifts. So I can see people being a bit pissed off about that, but I thought it was kind of funny, and I thought it was a really strong opening for the story.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a few times throughout the book where he does like a I'm not sure what the term would be, but he sort of fakes you out into thinking one thing when it's actually something completely different. Which I do like when it's done properly, or if there's a purpose for it.
Yeah. What did you think of the opening, Jonathan? Do you have any thoughts?
To be honest, I think the whole reason what you mentioned there about like at the start about the POV switch and all like that, like I thought this book was so hard to follow.
Yeah.
But even this first opening scene is one POV. It's just this who is a river.
Yeah.
Now, to be quite honest, until you said there now it was a training exercise, I didn't even know that. Like I thought, like I honestly just couldn't follow this book at all. Like I just it just didn't agree with me the way it was written. Like I think it was written like they'd be like I fully down one way, and then it was like actually no, this is what happened. But I just was full down that way, and that was it. Like I didn't even understand that it was a training exercise until you've just said. But yeah, like I think like I was going to say that I think it was a good opening because it was like an actual bomb going off. Like, but now that I found out that it's a training exercise, I would say that. I mean, what was even the point now? Like, because I thought he got put in Slough House because he failed this because he let people get killed by this bomb. So now I'm actually completely lost now.
Well, we'll get on to the actual, the purpose behind getting put into Slough House later. I think that's a big spoiler.
Yeah, okay. Because he's corresponding to this guy Webb, isn't it? And
yes, but so I can't remember his first name, but it's this like colleague of his called Spider.
Yeah,
nicknamed Spider Webb. His surname's
I think
Webb.
It's James Webb or something like that.
James something like that, yeah. And he's like telling him. I think it's not exactly a training exercise. It's like an upgrade exam, to like basically get a promotion in MI5. And I think the two of them were doing it together. One's like doing one aspect of kind of surveillance, and the others tailing the guy.
Yeah, and he blames Spider for like making the mistake, and then later in the story he actually accuses him of stitching him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens with audiobooks sometimes though, Jonathan, where you're that it loses you that much where you disengage with it that much. It's happened to me before with stories,
It happened with me with Witness Mistborn.
Yeah, because Stephen missed the plot twist and missed
True. I think that like Stephen, you watch this as like a show. I think this would be a good show.
Yeah,
like because it's easy to see a POV switch in a show because you're watching it. But yeah, I just felt completely lost for it.
Yeah,
this whole
that's
book.
That's part of my theory of why it was written like that, because I think he just wrote it like a TV show or movie, because that happens in movies, quick POV shifts.
Yeah. I think like towards the end, then when I kind of knew all the characters' names, I could get that POV shift a bit better. So it was a wee bit easier. But yeah, just from the get go, like I was confused.
I think this book would be stronger on a reread for that purpose.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, watch the TV show and then read it back.
Yeah.
Or don't, but yeah, I do think it is stronger when you've either read it once before or if you have seen the TV show first.
Yeah,
that was a point I was going to bring up later. But that's grand. So let's move on a little bit then. So the book kind of jumps forward, and River has been exiled to Slough House because of the disaster that he caused. Even though, as I said, there was no physical damage or anything, but there's a bunch of like financial losses and reputation of MI5s dragged through the dirt and all of this. So before, where he was like a high flyer, up and coming guy, now he's sort of in a dead end job, a dead end office job, and where he spends his time doing pointless tasks for a boss who doesn't even seem to care what goes on really. And yeah, there's those two aspects of him are juxtaposed again. So we follow River as he learns that one of his colleagues has like actually been assigned with some proper spy work, where she has to take this character of Sid that Michael mentioned before, and she has been assigned to like follow a disgraced journalist called Robert Hobden. But we're not told why or anything like that, but basically he can't help but get involved, and he eventually ends up watching Hobden's house, and a suspicious guy enters. So like, what do you think of the second part of the book, where it's kind of like slower and it's more like background fleshing out sort of thing, where you get introduced to a lot more characters and more of the setting and stuff?
Yeah, I did enjoy it, but as I said, like in my summary review before, like there was way too much POV switching for me at the start. I think it would have benefited a lot with sticking with maybe just one or two characters, and things would have been a bit easier to comprehend. There was just like we were just hit by one character's background after another, and I can see that. Like, they were all good. They were really good backgrounds. But it was just about, like, it was just this avalanche coming at you, kind of. And I thought, like, what happened and everything was interesting. It did draw me in, River sorting through the rubbish, and Sid taking the hard drive and everything. I was, at this stage of the book, I was like, oh, I want to know what happens next, which is, like, the purpose of crime thriller genre. It's the biggest thing you should be asking, what happens next. So that engaged me. I had those issues with it.
Yeah, same here. I mean, again, found it hard to follow. I guess, I mean, you get one of the first opening scenes one of the first scenes then is like her stealing the hard drive, but she like disguises it as like a coffee spill thing. It's like all I can remember, and like the only thing that I actually was able to follow. But I was like, that was pretty nice. Like, but I don't know. I guess like the start to is more of like showing this Slough House is kind of about, and like that they're basically paper pushing and doing these meaningless tasks, like just to kind of show how grim it is to work there and things. So yeah, I can see the point of this part, but again, it was hard to follow, and I just found it boring.
Fair enough. I thought, it was a bit of a slower section, obviously, because as you said, they had to flesh out all the character backstories and stuff, which again I think some of them wasn't necessarily needed. But it is what it is. And also I did like that. We get more of a kind of insight into what these people are doing though, with the sorting through the dirt and everything. And I think the introduction of Lamb is great in this sort of section as well.
Yeah,
I love that character.
Yeah, he is. He's the best part of the book. My favorite part of the book, and has interactions with River. The scenes of him and River, I think, are probably the best scenes in the book for me.
Yeah,
and I love that. I just love how he slags off his staff some of the jokes he makes about Catherine Standish, who is like she's like an alcoholic, and just the snide remarks he makes. There's just no need for it, but yeah, he was definitely
no need for it, especially considering that he also seems to be an alcoholic. It's like
I know.
So I thought that was funny too.
Yeah, and I say he is. I know we're not talking about the show yet, but I say he's Gary Oldman on the show. Is he?
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll like it even better in the show.
Yeah,
he's played by Gary Oldman, and he's like it's incredible as always with Gary Oldman.
Yeah,
brilliant. Like, I think he's the main character too. For through all the books. I think it's called the Jackson Lamb series or something. He's in the tagline for the full series for the series or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, because coming away from this book, I would have said if there was anybody who was the main character, it was River, but it was hard to pin down if there was a main character or anything for me.
I think the Lamb's supposed to be all based around him.
Yeah.
Really. But going back to this book, then I also like that this part of you kind of learn later on that this part of the book is also a misdirect. With the whole Robert Hobden stuff, because you're led to believe that he's doing something dodgy, or the MI5 want them for something. But later on, you learn that he in fact doesn't really have anything on them. He's kind of bluffing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that. But moving on then. So while all this is happening, there's a video clip of some masked men who've kidnapped someone goes viral. This is where the book starts to pick up again now. So these men claim that they will film and behead the victim after 48 hours, but they have no demands and don't have any ransom requests or anything, which is a bit suspicious or strange. And we eventually learn that the victim is a university student by the name of Hassan, who happens to be Muslim, and the planned execution is in retaliation to similar methods used by Muslim extremists. The kidnappers are members of the so-called Sons of Albion, which is a group of British nationalist extremists, and we sort of follow Hassan's struggle to stay sane while under torture, with the threat of his death imminent. And then this part takes a kind of strange turn, because the kidnappers start arguing and one of them kills another by beheading them, which is another action-packed scene. So what did you think of this part? Are these the Hassan parts of the book?
So I thought this part was really, really strong. I was intrigued to know what happened next when they were first broadcasting and everything. It reminded me kind of the first episode of Black Mirror, the way everybody is hooked to their TV and everything. I thought it was really well portrayed, the kind of national kind of crisis that would occur if something like this happened. And I liked the twist that it wasn't a foreign terrorism group. It was a domestic terrorism group, and it was a far right group who were reacting to foreign terrorism, and because it's a very relevant issue, especially today, about far right racism basically, and blaming every people of a certain culture for what extremists are doing. So it was an interesting thing for the book to handle. I thought this part was really, really good. Later in the book, I think it didn't go far enough to explore that. It didn't I really wanted it to hold up what's happening with the far right and everything, to properly just go into depth and I just didn't feel the book went those places thematically.
Yeah.
So I think it could have went deeper into that, but I thought this part of the book was excellent.
Yeah, I thought that that's the whole reason I thought that the explosion at the start was not it was an actual explosion, was because I thought these guys were retaliating for that, that there was a terrorist right, had a bomb on the train and killed a load of people, and now they were blaming a Muslim because it was a Muslim that did it or whatever.
Right.
So I thought that's what kind of led me to believe it's I just kind of completely cut out the whole training part from my brain. But I did the interaction between the three kidnappers. Like I think one of them was like Curly was like stupid or something like that, and they just like the other two just kept making poking fun at him or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Hassan,
yeah.
he is an Atam who dubs them these names, and it's the Three Stooges, isn't it? That's what
The
they're
Three
named.
Stooges,
Yeah, what they're named after.
He calls them Larry, Moe, and Curly, and then he gives them a second name later on. It's something to do with his father, like owned the shop, and if there was a gang of three people, his dad would call them refer to them as Larry, Moe, and Curly, or if it was two, he would call them. Was it Laurel and Hardy? I can't remember.
Yeah, so for me, this part was the parts that talked about the kidnapping. I think were probably the bits that I could follow more easily because I don't know. It was just obvious that you would always start from Hassan's kind of point of view when it jumped these bits. It was like him had just peed himself or something like that. You know, something it was horrible. There was a bag over his head, or you know, it was very easy to like go, okay, we're at Hassan's part now.
Yeah.
So these bits I could follow. So yeah, I did. You find at least these parts better in the book and more exciting. You know, when you're dealing with the actual kidnapping itself. And I guess then you're thinking, like, are these people just doing this? You do find out later why, but like, are these people doing this? They haven't made any demands, so they just doing this just for pure retaliation purposes, or you know, is there ulterior motives?
One thing I wanted to point out about the Hassan parts is the sort of use of language that Mick Herron uses. There's a lot of he effectively paints these guys as complete assholes. You know, aside the kidnapping part aside, just even like the words that they use and stuff, the derogatory terms. I thought, and the way that Sean Barrett delivers them as well. I think that it's like perfect. Like paints them perfectly, like complete assholes. Yeah. But like, what did you think of that sort of thing? Like the use of words and kind of way people speak to portray that.
Yeah, I think a lot of characters had very unique voices, and you could tell a lot about the characters just by the way they communicated.
Okay, so then the kind of latter half of the book, then the two plot lines sort of intersect when it's revealed that Robert Hobden seemingly has evidence of MI5's involvement in the kidnapping, which is another was a bit of a shocker moment. I was like, whoa, what? Why? What? That kind of intrigued me a bit. But he's planning to reveal them to the public. So we learn that MI5 in fact was in behind the kidnapping, or I suppose one member, the so-called second desk of MI5, this lady called Diana Taverner, can't remember. She's behind the whole thing, and it's basically a type of false flag operation where they're going to kidnap this guy and rescue him before he's beheaded, basically to get into the good graces of I think it's the Pakistani security services, because this fella Hassan is the nephew of one of their high-ranking members, so it's like a false flag operation for those purposes. So the man that we see entering River's house is one of the MI5 people. Actually, he's another slow horse. I think it was Jed Moody, right?
Yeah,
Michael.
it was.
You brought him up before. Yeah, so he's kind of sent to silence Hobden, who later we realise doesn't actually have any information at all. He's just kind of talking big. But anyway, the sort of silencing of Hobden goes wrong because River intervenes, and the plan to save Hassan goes wrong because, as I mentioned, the kidnappers start arguing when one of them works out that another is a spy, and kills him for it. That kidnapper who was a member of MI5 was another slow horse. So basically, the whole thing turns into like a race against time to save Hassan before he's murdered, but also for the slow horses to sort of clear their name, because now that everything's gone wrong, Taverna is gonna blame the whole thing on them, basically pin it on them,
yeah,
to kind of save face.
Yeah, and through this, like, don't we? Two remaining members of the Sons of Albion, or two of them anyway, reveal that we weren't gonna behead Hassan anyway. This was all just posturing. But then it's Curly who is kind of, we realize, has gone a bit off the rails, and he's gonna see this through, and he even beheads the guy who was undercover.
Yeah, Alan Black, I think, was the undercover guy.
Yeah, so we can see he's definitely very unhinged.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the plot twist of MI5 being behind the kidnapping?
Yeah, so funny this part until, well, you explained it there. I didn't know I understood it until you explained it, but it turns out I actually did get this part. Like, I feel like with these, for a twist for something like this, it always kind of ends up having to be an inside job. Like, there's always somebody working, in the organisation that's like got something to do with it. The way they went with it, like, usually you would think it's like, say they were looking for a ransom, then it's like someone on the inside, wants the money or whatever. But this here, I thought it was a good idea that, like, they were trying to, it was for some political gain, essentially. Mm-hmm. They were trying to, like, make themselves look like heroes, and then ended up messing things up, and now they actually have to save them for real. Like, I thought that's quite funny. Like, it's quite tragic as well. So I think that that is a good idea, to be fair. My whole view of this book is just a bit distorted now because I didn't understand. I found it hard to follow, but I think, like I said at the start, this probably would make a good TV show. So, if I watched the TV show, I think I would enjoy the way this kind of panned out.
This sort of disappointed me that it was an inside job. I'm trying to figure out why. I think it was just a really weird plan to, like, infiltrate the Sons of Albion with one of the members. It just seems like, did they not see that this could go so wrong? And this is supposed to be like the competent branch of MI5 to fake this kidnapping. It just seems so irresponsible. But I know that's the point. But it just, it kind of, it stretched my sense of disbelief a little bit compared to the earlier parts of the book. And I just really wanted it to go in that direction of, like, talking about extremism on both sides and everything, and I felt like it took the wind out of the sails of that a bit by making it be an inside job, and I think that's probably why I felt a bit disappointed by this reveal.
I have mixed feelings about it. I think I on one hand I liked it, on the other hand I'm the same as you, Michael. I was a bit disappointed by it, but what I did like though is the kind of role reversal, where, as you said, the slow horses kind of become the heroes, and the competent branch of MI5, have screwed the whole thing up. Yeah, I did like that.
That was good. Yeah, to be fair.
And then thoughts on the ending of the book as a whole. We see the slow horses kind of track down the kidnappers who have now gone on the run in a vehicle. They're able to locate the kind of tracking information of the vehicle. I think it had, like, GPS tracking on it or something. Mm-hmm. Or was it a sat nav? Can't remember. But they're able to, like, hack into that and follow and, chase him down, basically, and rescue him. So what did you think about that? And also there's a whole part where they break River and Lamb break into MI5. What's it called? Park House or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they, something like that, the park I think they call it, but they break in to basically get some information that, or basically clear River's name, I think.
Yeah.
What did you think about that part of the book?
I really liked as I've said previously, I really like any scenes with River and Lamb together are probably my favourite parts of the book. So the break-in scene definitely was a highlight for me. The shootout and stuff and everything that comes after didn't, for some reason, it didn't have my heart racing or me, like, tearing through it, wanting to know what happens next at that point. It didn't, like, thrill me in any great way. I don't know if it would be better seen as a TV show at that point, but the ending was just standard for me. It wasn't bad, but it was just solid, I thought.
Just to expand on what I said there, so River works out that the whole thing was set up by Taverna, and it's also partly the reason why he ended up in Slough House. So I can't remember why or how he realizes it, but he figures out that Taverna. So as part of his upgrade assessment, they have to like follow a politician or some important person without being noticed, and they have to like document their comings and goings and stuff. And before the day of the politician's like in a different country or something, so it's like cancelled. So he instead follows Taverna, and like she's supposed to be this amazing spy who like is super observant and everything, and he never gets caught, and he basically brags about it. But he snapped a photo of her talking to this Alan Black fella who is the undercover kidnapper guy. So he got a photo of them two discussing clearly the kidnap setup. So she realizes that and sets the whole thing up for Webb to frame him, to kind of not frame him, but set him up to fail his exam.
Yeah, stitch him up. Yeah.
So we do learn that he was stitched up. So they break into MI5 to get the evidence from Webb, because he's the type of person who would keep something on another man, in case, or keep something on his superiors in case he needs them. I think they call it Moscow rules, or is it London rules? Of like subterfuge, where you like I can't remember. I can't remember the definitions between there was London rules and Moscow rules, but anyway, they break in to like get these photos and show them there to say, we know you did the whole thing and you're trying to pin it on us, so stop it, sort of thing. So sorry, yeah. So Johnny, what did you think about the ending of the book?
Yeah, I agree with Michael. Like, it wasn't really too engaging. Like, I feel like the high point of the book was, the twists of the MI5 being behind it all and stuff. To be honest, again, like, I kind of got a bit more lost at this stage again. I don't really know what was happening. I guess that's probably because, like, during maybe at the point where, the whole twist is happening and stuff, it's more exciting, so it was more focused on it, which is why I understood it a bit better. And this part maybe just lost me a bit more. Mm-hmm. There was one, I don't know if it was actually at this part it was maybe earlier in the book. So there was the girl, Sid Baker, was like assigned to River to like observe him or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So she was like, she was placed in Slough House, but she's not actually a slow horse.
Yeah.
Like she's like an undercover slow horse.
She's spying on spies, basically.
Yeah, basically to watch him. Yeah.
But then, like, there's some like romantic relationship between him and her, and I just don't understand that whole, what was the point in that? Like, and then she gets like shot. Like, what was the whole point in their romance?
That romance part was very forced. It's also forced in the TV show, and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, because it's just like they have to like work together, and then we work together. We have to be romantic as well. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, I don't even, like, they just 1 second they were like outside, like I think they were like up staking something out or something, and then the next minute it's like, and then they went in their closet or something like that, and I was like, what happened in between there? Like, how did this happen?
there was also like while they're at work, and I think they share an office or something, and he's like really messy or something. They seem like they don't like each other, but then it switches later where they're like, the romantic side, and it just felt really forced. But
yeah,
she's not in it very much, so I kind of give it a pass for that.
Yeah, it's just something that I was a bit confused about and wanted to bring up as well. But no, that's for the end. And yeah, I completely agree with what Michael said about it.
Okay, cool. So pivoting from the plot, then I wanted to talk about the narration style. So did you think Sean Barrett gave a good performance? For me, I was kind of, I initially didn't like it, but quickly came to warm to it. I think, as I said, yeah, I would have liked it better if there were chapter markers. But again, that's like an issue with the production rather than his narration. But I think overall it was pretty good. Maybe the kind of character differences, the way he voiced the characters could have been a bit better. But yeah, not really sure. What are your thoughts?
I thought he gave a good performance. I thought the characters were distinct enough for me, and it felt like his voice and his intonation suited the tone of the book, and all the witticisms and everything. He kind of delivers them just subtly, as I imagine they are written. So I thought he gave a good performance. Yeah, wouldn't say it was outstanding, but I think it was good.
Yeah, that's kind of the same for me. Kind of good, above average, I would say.
Yeah.
I think his lamb, was perfect though. I will say.
Yeah.
I would say like his I think like the lamb portrayal like suited his voice because it was very like grumpy old man kind of voice. But everybody else, just it wasn't nothing special or nothing like that. It was just alright. Like I think maybe if the performance had been a bit more better for like different characters, able to distinguish between them, it might have helped me a bit. Followed a bit more, so maybe would have liked a bit more effort in there. But no, I think the kind of he sounds like an old man as well, kind of voice.
Yeah.
So I feel like those characters like Lamb that sounded good, but then it was kind of similar for all the other characters, which I just found hard to distinguish then.
Cool. What about pacing then? So for me, as I said, you kind of jump into the action and it slows down a bit to flesh out everything, and then starts to slowly build back up. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that the kind of breakdown. But what are your thoughts, Johnny?
Yeah, and just in general, they like start something with like a kind of high pace, like this bomb's gonna go off kind of scenario, and then just like drop it straight into like it's kind of like you get this. It's almost like starting something. You see this a lot in like TV shows or movies or whatever. They like start it like in the high point of the movie, like the most exciting point, and then just like stop it at a point just before you actually find out what's going on, and then go back to like the start. They build up to that point. It's kind of like that. I know this
like the Breaking Bad pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of like starts. It kind of gives you like a wee glimpse of what's going to happen towards the end of the episode, and then goes back to the start, and then like starts building up slowly. Then up to that point, that's what I kind of felt from it. So yeah, I mean, I like that in terms of like just in general. I like that kind of style.
Mm-hmm. Michael.
Yeah, I thought the book was paced well. I thought maybe the beginning was a bit too fast at times for a beginning, but maybe that was just my mind thinking that it was fast because of the POV switches. So, but apart from that, I think the book was paced perfectly. Like all the plot points happened when I think they should have happened. When you were starting to, want something to twist in the book, it did twist, and then it changed the nature of the way the book played out. So yeah, I thought it ramped up well, the way a thriller really should.
Cool. And then I suppose last thing about the book is I wanted to talk about 3 characters in particular. And there's a lot of characters in this, so I don't want to like go through all of them, obviously, and some of them don't really matter too much. But we can talk about others if you want after. But first, I wanted to go over like the character of River. So, as I said, he's sort of a wannabe super spy, and he's got this legendary grandfather who used to be like really high up, possibly like head of MI5. I don't think we're told that, like how far he was, but so he's got like sort of stuff to prove basically, and we hear some of the backstory with him and his grandfather. But I was really annoyed at River's character right from the start. It just annoyed me, like him getting butting into like things that he shouldn't be, like with Sid and everything. and he seemed like a sort of try-hard guy that I just really wouldn't get on with. But later on, I felt sorry for him because we found out that he was completely screwed over, and because he was screwed over because he was a really good spy. You know, he was able to follow the second desk or whatever she's called without her knowing, and he had, you know, all these photos of her day and stuff. So yeah, I felt bad for him in the end, but yeah, what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I actually really liked River. I liked how driven he was as a character, and how much he had contempt for what he was doing. No, I thought that added a lot of humour to the early parts of the book. And you said you felt sorry for him. I actually felt differently. I felt like that was kind of a moment of catharsis. It was like he had this turmoil of him making this mistake, and then it was finally, you know, it was confirmed that this was not you were actually so good at your job that you had to be stitched up. So I felt like it felt to me like more of a cathartic moment than me feeling sorry for him.
I like your take on that. Actually, I'm changing my opinion to that. Johnny, what did you think about River?
Honestly, and for all the character, I don't really feel myself connect to any of the characters, and even like Lamb, I don't really even like Lamb. Who you have said he's like the most entertaining character of them all. I don't know, again, if it was because of this POV switching and stuff, if just found it hard to kind of like really get into a character and like, you know, feel for them, like, and stuff, you know, like you're reading like some book, or, you know, say like last episode where we did the Mistborn, like, you know, I was rooting for Kelsier the whole time kind of thing, you know, I felt like I wanted them to win. I just never felt that for any of these characters, or never felt bad for any of them, or, you know, I just even the hostage boy, like, didn't even feel bad for him, like, because like towards the end of the book, he gets pure arrogant and all, like, and he's like, you know what, if I'm going to die, I don't care, you know, F you and all like that. And I was like, you know what, that's just disrespectful, like, to your kidnappers, like, you know. But no, okay. I don't know if it is because the whole thing, and if it hard to follow, but I just didn't really connect with any character.
This is your Mistborn, Jonathan.
We're all entitled to our Mistborn. That's fine. So yeah, let's move on to Lamb then. So Jackson Lamb is the leader of the Slow Horses. He is like a former legend who's like a washed up has-been now, and it's not clear why exactly he's in Slough House. But that was something that kept me, you know, intrigued. I want to know why he's there, basically, or what's led him to be sent there or whatever. And he's got that sort of air of mystery because of that, which is always good for a spy to have. He's also portrayed as this like scruffy mess who's like disgusting, and yeah, he's a grumpy old man who doesn't really care about his job or anything, or life really. He likes to poke fun at his underlings and slag them off and everything, which I really like for some reason. And then, at first he kind of gives the impression that he doesn't really care about his employees at all, but as the story evolves, you kind of see that he might not necessarily care about them as people, but because they're like his assets, he doesn't like them getting screwed over or being used by higher ups. So he kind of spurs into action and everything. But what did you think about Lamb as a character?
I think Jonathan's pretty much said his bit about like all characters, Umbrella. So I'll go. I loved Lamb as a character. I thought he was great. He's like it's a very typical archetype of like the drunk kind of governor overhead of the department kind of figure. It's done a lot, and I thought it was done really well here. I loved the disparaging remarks about his underlings as well. I love he gives a he tell them they're all crap or something at the end, near the end, and they're like, was that a motivational speech? He's like,
yeah, it's like a inversion of like a motivational speech. He's trying to, they're supposed to be getting like spurred into action, but he just calls them all losers and stuff.
Yeah, that was great.
It was just great.
Yeah, I thought it was a great character, and the fact you said he's the main character of the series is exciting, because he's definitely a character I would want to follow more.
I think he is anyway. I don't know for certain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. So, what do you think is the reason that he's in Slough House? What do you think he's done, or has he been stitched up as well? What do you think?
I hadn't really give it much thought, Stephen. I'm kind of one of those readers that never tries to figure out the plot or character motivations. I'm just like, they'll tell me when they want me to know, kind of way.
Right.
So, but if I'm forced to think of it now, I would say usually when it's something like this where it's built up, it's usually involving like a death of a partner or something. He caused the death of somebody he was working with. Is typically what these reveals will come out as. But yeah, I don't really try to figure out too much, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I do know as it happens. It's in the TV show.
Right.
I can't remember if it's season 1 or season 2, but you do find out. So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and then lastly, I wanted to talk about Taverna, just as a kind of the villain of the piece, almost, or maybe secondary antagonist. I'm not really sure if she's primary or not, because
I would call her the primary antagonist and call Curly secondary.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because she's kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of hard to distinguish because she's behind the scenes, pulling strings and whatever, and he's kind of actually threatening this guy.
Yeah.
He's going to do harm, whereas she was,
she was the orchestrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Diana Taverna, or also known as Lady Di by like her underlings.
Yeah.
She's the sort of prim and proper second desk of MI5. I'm not exactly sure what second desk is, but I think it's supposed to be like really high up. But she's presented as this like particularly cunning individual who'll do anything to stay on top and cover tracks and stuff, and she's willing to throw people under the bus to save face and all this. And I thought I think she's a really interesting villain, I guess, because she's sort of on the side of good, but not.
Yeah.
She's like an anti-villain.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing?
Yeah, there's shades of grey there. Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen. I thought she was a great villain. The fact that I really hated her, like, points to that she was a good antagonist. I thought she was very despicable, the way she was just gonna like throw the slow horses under the bus so quickly and blame it all on Jackson Lamb at one stage and everything.
There's a few moments where her and Lamb have discussions, and it seems like there's a sort of history there that I wanted to know more about as well. Like, yeah,
I think there is a subtext there, definitely.
Yeah, like they have these secret meetings to like discuss what's going on. And Lamb basically says like, "I know it was you."
Yeah,
that's here, and I like that whole sort of like fleshed out backstory type where you're not specifically told, but it's implied that there's history or whatever. I really like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. She's a sort of despicable, but lovable as a villain. I think not lovable, but like I like her as a villain.
She improves the story by being there. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the three kind of standouts that I wanted to talk about. But do you want to discuss any of the other characters, Johnny? I know you don't. So.
No, those were the standouts to me too. I think everybody else is kind of. I think I said Jed Moody reminds me of a few people in my past.
That's a good point, though. I think all of the sort of slow horse characters, they're all tropey of office workers, I think.
Yeah.
As you said, like Lamb's the sort of high up kind of guy who's been there forever and he hates it.
Yeah.
Like Jed Moody's, that as you said, you've got Catherine Standish, who's the like keeps everything running basically.
Yeah.
Type, and then you've got the office romance between those two characters. I can't remember their names. That is interesting. That just came into my head there, that there's sort of tropes of office work there.
Yeah, rather than detectives. Yeah.
Yeah. I think is it star rating next, is it?
Yeah.
We'll move on to that then. So for me, I think I would give it a 3.5, sort of above average overall. I do really like the story, and I'll definitely be reading the rest of the series, but I think my review is clouded in multiple respects by having watched the TV show. For me, the TV show is a 5 out of 5, and because I watched it first, the book sort of jaded in that respect. Although I will say they're not a one-for-one copy. It's very close, but there's a few plot beats that are slightly different. And I think a lot of the scenes were better portrayed on screen, as we touched on. Now, at the time of finishing reading the book, or listening to the book, I should say, I think it would have been a 4.5, but I think I was still coming off the high of having watched the show. But
Yeah.
I just I was really buzzing about it. So yeah, but yeah, I think a 3.5, and narration I think was above average for me as well.
Yeah, Stephen, before this episode I had decided upon my rating, and so I just want to say exact same as you, 3.5, and pretty much echoing a lot of the things you said. I do want to read more in this series. I was interested in the characters and everything. I do think the show would be good. I probably will watch the show at some stage. I felt like the plot didn't live up to how good the characters were. So I was like, maybe these characters in a different situation would, or maybe this situation is portrayed more excitingly in the show. And yeah, I think like and parts at the beginning are nearly written like a TV show or movie. The quick jumps between is that style. So yeah, I still like this series. Like 3.5 still means I liked it. I think we said 2.5 is our meh score, so it's still a liked it score. I just had those gripes and those issues with it as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think I actually read a review which was pretty much on the similar lines to what you said, where the characters are super engaging and fleshed out, more so than the narrative.
Yeah.
Much, yeah. Just wanted to point that out. So, Johnny, what's your rating?
Obviously, as I've said, I was completely lost throughout this book, and which I did not enjoy. Not understanding things, and I did not get anything from this book. It has not changed my life in any bit anyway. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the lowest possible score of 1.
Ouch.
Fair enough.
It's like the Willy Wonka rant. You lose. You get nothing.
You get nothing.
So just can I go back to the discussion about changing things for sensitivity? Stephen, how would you feel if they changed lines in movies, if they redubbed lines in movies?
I don't know if as long as I think my view's the same, as long as the narrative's the same. It depends what line, obviously. If it's like a key moment and
Yeah.
or something, or maybe you remember when you might have seen it more back in the day, but like you get like a cop, like a like a physical. You'd have the disc or something, and you put it on, but some parts were like censored.
Yeah.
For the home release.
Oh yeah,
and
like
it completely ruins it.
Yep.
Like, is it Die Hard? that happens in.
And
I think I was listening to the Sony podcast. I think they mentioned that, and it was really funny.
I think like the classic example too is that a lot of people will be thinking of is Star Wars. The Han Solo shoots first Greedo kind of moment. It's like a key moment for that character, and then George Lucas changed it. He also changed the Anakin Force Ghost, and
I like that though. I did like the Force Ghost thing, to be honest. But I appreciate what you're saying, and
yeah,
the Han and Greedo thing. I again, I don't see the point of changing it really.
yeah,
It doesn't really matter to me who shot first. You know, I don't really care.
I think it makes Han Solo seem more cold-blooded if he shoots first, and George Lucas maybe doesn't like that, but I think it's...
See, things that he does later on makes me feel he's more cold-blooded. You know, when he like basically says, "I'm going to ditch you," to like, I don't want to be involved in the kind of battle. I'm away. But then he comes back anyway. So, you know, I still get that feel, and just the way he goes on at the start of the movie, I do get that impression anyway. So I don't think it matters to me who does. So to go back to it, the same answer. If they change lines, as long as they're not key lines, you know, if they change lines, so the same kind of information is being portrayed, then I don't really care.
Yeah, I would hate that also.
Yeah. So we'll do a comparison first. So yeah, obviously the biggest comparison is to the TV show, which, as I said multiple times, is far better. You've got Gary Oldman portraying Lamb, and he's amazing. He fits that role really well. But I think he's just a great actor, so you can put him in anything. He's like a chameleon. But yeah, it's the TV show's much better. There's a few differences. Like the start is not King's Cross. I think it's Stansted Airport. I wasn't really sure why they changed that. To be honest, it's
probably ease of filming, like, because that's the
possibly. Yeah.
They would have to actually film it in that place, King's Cross, before they was it.
Yeah, it could be a budget thing.
Yeah, probably something like that. Because I guess in King's Cross they would obviously need the. It's a very like iconic location, so if they didn't film there, it would be a bit. People would know and be like, well, you know, what the hell. Where Stansted, I've been to Stansted like a number of times, and you could tell that it was parts of it was filmed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I could anyway. So. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Again, it kind of goes back to what I said before, where it doesn't really matter because the narrative's still the same. You know, River messes up and everything. Doesn't matter if it's a train station or an airport.
Yeah, just some busy public transport place.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a difference.
Some place that it's a problem if there's a bomb, and also you know it gets stopped for a couple hours or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah. There's a few other things that I can't really think of off the top of my head, but the POV switching is obviously less jarring because it's a TV show, and you know you're aware from the get go whose POV it is. Do you know?
Yeah. No, I think like that happens in movies all the time, like the quick POV changes, so it's just made for that format. I think better.
Also, what's different is the lot of parts where the kidnappers is different too. So there's 4 of them instead of 3 of them for some reason. I'm not really sure why they added another man, maybe just to bulk it up a bit, but anyway. And then there's a lot of scenes where they're like kind of, you know, sitting about talking about what they're going to have to do, and they're playing cards, and kind of Hassan's in the basement trying to figure a way to escape and all this here, which I think it was much better in the show, much more fleshed out. And the undercover kidnapper, Alan Black, he's kind of portraying this sort of mean character where he's sort of playing up to the role, like to fit in basically, which I really liked. I was kind of disappointed that didn't happen in the book. So. It's like much more of a twist in the show that he's undercover, because the way Curly's character is going on, it seems like there's something about him where they're like talking about Hassan, and he sort of, you know, says, "Oh, I'll go down and kind of, give him the bucket to go to the toilet, basically.
Yeah.
And they're all like slagging him for it. So it's like another reversal where you think
it's a red
Curly's
herring.
gonna be, where it's actually it switches again. So I think that was much better in the show.
Yeah, that does sound better.
Yeah, and overall just much better. So I would definitely recommend that. And then the other item that I had was kind of Line of Duty. If you've ever seen that, the opening is very, very similar. It's not so much a training exercise, but the character basically screws up an assignment and is sent to this this branch of the police services. I can't remember. They're like internal corruption. Basically, it's a dead end sort of position.
Yeah, that is very similar.
And it's police, so it's very, very similar. Yeah. Okay, tail end now. So what else are we consuming? I'll go first. So
do you often have trivia? I think.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah,
to be
trivia.
fair, the trivia isn't very.
Oh, well, we'll just cut that then.
Yeah.
I was gonna say these about cutting trivia altogether.
Yeah, because we never have any.
If you ever have anything interesting, you can just bring it up organically. Like, there's probably no need to have a section dedicated to it.
This is we'll play deaf music for trivia.
What do you see,
RIP
Nick?
trivia, 9 episodes.
RIP trivia, October 2022 to
February
February 2023.
For all those we've lost, trivia.
In memoriam.
Okay, so what else are we consuming? I'll go first because there's a few things that I've watched or read since we last recorded. So first of all, what I wanted to mention was Blackbird. It's also on Apple TV, like Slough Horses, and it's based on a true story. Have either of you heard about this or seen it before?
Nope.
It's also a sort of crime thriller, but I wouldn't call it a thriller, but it's based around criminals. So this guy gets sent to jail for drug trafficking, and after a year, the FBI offer to release him if he can get another prisoner who was convicted of murder to admit to like all these other murders that they suspect him of, and it was really well written. I think we like binged the whole thing in one sitting. I almost did bin it because like we normally do like a first episode test, and if it can't hook us we stop there, but towards the end of the first episode I was firmly on the hook. So I would recommend that. Then the other thing we've been watching is Shrinking. Have you seen this or heard about it?
I think I may have heard about it. I think I may have read about it on Reddit.
Yeah,
But I don't know much.
It stars Jason Segel or Marshall from How I Met Your Mother,
Right.
and Harrison Ford is in it as well.
That's what I've read about it. I read that Harrison Ford is very funny in it.
He's brilliant in it. So I like seeing Harrison in more things. Now I think I read a thing where he said he hasn't been able to do much the last couple decades because he's been like contractually obligated for Indiana Jones or something.
Right.
So he's kind of sitting about waiting for a phone call from George or something. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe that was taken out of context. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny. But he's in a few things now. There's some cowboy show he's in as well. But anyway, Shrinking. It's also on Apple TV, and I think it's created by Bill Lawrence of Scrubs fame.
Ah, yeah.
And Christina Miller's in it as well, who's Jordan from Scrubs. But it's a really well written show, really funny. There's only 5 episodes I think out at the minute, but it's one I'm gonna continue watching. So it's basically like Jason Segel plays a therapist who starts to like breach ethical barriers by telling patients what he actually thinks of them rather than what they need to hear, and it's really funny. Also started watching The Last of Us. I don't think anything needs to be said on that one. Solid show. And then I have a bunch of books that I want to get through. A lot of the Slow Horses books, but still going through Game of Thrones Currently halfway through Feast for Crows.
I do not have many shows or movies to talk about this week because I have been flat out at the Harry Potter game. Every time I have free time,
Nice.
I've just been playing that game. It's really, really good. I think I'm only like a quarter way through it, judging by the fact that I've just today reached autumn, because I've been doing so much side quests and exploring and stuff. But it's a really, really fun game. I would recommend it if you guys are on the fence about it, buying it or anything. It's well worth the money, in my opinion.
I'm definitely going to buy it. It's just I've spent too much money recently. I need to calm down.
It's not even the money for me. It's more because I know how much of my life it will consume. I'm trying to get a few things done before I commit to it.
Yeah. I have been keeping up with The Last of Us as well, and it is excellent. It's so good they have great zombie post-apocalyptic TV again after The Walking Dead got really, really bad. The Walking Dead, I thought, was incredible in its first season, and it still had some great moments in the first 4 or 5 seasons. And so it's good. It's good to have something really, really great, high standard back again.
I think I got to like season 4 or 5. I think it was 4 of The Walking Dead, and it was very repetitive or something.
Yeah, I think I got to about season 5 and gave it up.
So I've been watching the new season of Drive to Survive. So that's the one about Formula 1, which anyone that's not into Formula 1 I think could even enjoy it too, because it's more just about the behind the scenes kind of rivalries and stuff like that. It's so good. Like, I'm picky when I watch Formula 1, but it's just come out. And then there's also one there called Full Swing. It's basically the same idea but about golf, and I've been getting into golf recently, so yeah, I've been watching that too. And then a show that I've been really enjoying that I've been watching, people have been recommending it to me for ages, is Ted Lasso. If you've seen it, it's the one about the manager he's like a NFL manager from America, and he comes over and manages like a British football team in the Premier League, and he's kind of like bringing all his management principles over, but I think a lot of the humour comes from, like, you know, the difference between things in America and things in UK. I think one of the things I was like laughing for ages was, it's like his son comes over to visit and he's like, here's a scone. It's like a muffin that sucks all the spit out of your mouth. It's like, that's such a good description of what it is. But it's just wee things like that there. But it's just a hilarious show. But it's absolutely loving that at the minute.
That show has been on my list for ages.
It's been on my list as well. Yeah. I think that was also written by Bill Lawrence and one of the other guys that do Shrinking.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I watch it. And I've been listening to. I just started the book that I'm about to recommend, so we'll see if that's what I'm about to say. But I've also been listening. Like I said, I've told you that it was like something to do with history, so I've been listening to one of those great courses as well, lectures about the history, about the time that this is set. Which I don't want to say what it is, but yeah, it's me kind of listening and stuff. But yeah, possibly in the next few weeks we'll get the new Harry Potter game, and that's, like Michael, that will be my only update, will be that I've just been playing.
No Pokemon update?
No Pokemon update, unfortunately. I've fell away from it a bit, but you know what, I'll get back to it eventually. It comes in cycles, Pokemon, you know, it's every 10 years or so. Like.
You feel that itch, yeah. I know it well.
Temporary RIP.
Sorry, Michael?
Temporary RIP to the PokeCast.
In memoriam. Any plugs you just want to throw out there?
I think by the time this episode comes out, by the time I edit it and get it out there, I will have also released my episode of The Dark Tales that's about the charity shop, so that should be out very soon before this episode. So by the time you're listening to this, you can find it by searching The Dark Tales and my name onto podcast apps. I'm also Still doing my series on Wattpad, the Shadow Sisters. I'll send the link in the description if you want to read any of that. And that's everything for me.
The Dark Tales. Can you let me know when that comes out? I want to read that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put. So I put the written version on Wattpad if people prefer to read the written version, and I'll put the link down the show, and I also do a wee narration for it as well on my podcast episode. So whatever you prefer.
Cool. Now, because this is based on a real event, right? Sort of loosely, very loosely, yeah. Do I feature in it by name?
I never use real people that I know.
Okay. Does he feature as a character in it based on him?
Yeah.
I use bits and pieces of people in every character in every way. Is my politician answer.
I'm going to be looking out. I'm going to be properly honed in on which one's me. I'm going to be thinking about that the whole time.
This is always my fear. See, when I'm writing in a tool, and then people are like, "Is that me?"
I'll know. Sorry, Johnny.
I'll go, I guess. Yeah, so I think I mentioned that I was doing YouTube. I created a YouTube channel, so I never actually said what it was called. So decided to call it computational poetry, which is supposed to describe exactly what it's about. Is kind of the beauty of kind of computer code and stuff like that. So I've only put the only videos I have on there right now is like the ones that I've said before about the Q, solving problems in the Q programming language, but I want to do a kind of stuff in C, like a kind of going through different kind of projects and programs in C, and I'll also want to go through stuff about algorithms and data structures, and kind of like use cases and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping to get on there eventually, but there's not too much on there, but I will put the link into the description of this episode.
Can I ask you a question about Q?
Yes.
How different is Q from K, or whatever KDB is in?
So Q is actually written in a dialect of K called K4. Okay. So there's different types of K. They're all very similar, but they're just different flavors essentially.
Because I was gonna say because K is horrible to look at, so is Q nice?
So Q basically replaces a lot of the K symbols with words.
That's music.
So like in for example in K, to do like the sum of a list of numbers, it would be like a plus and a slash. So that means like plus over this list. Whereas there's a keyword in Q called sum, and then you just do sum the list. So it is still quite terse, but it's supposed to be more human readable than K.
That's music to my ears.
But yeah, it's to be fair, I know about a K as well. Like I think when you like know Q well, especially because Q was the first language, I didn't know any programming languages before I learned it, and because I come from a mathematical background, I think learning it as my first one, and I think it's quite suited to mathematics, like the notation and stuff like that. Yeah, it was I picked it up quite easy, but I feel like I appreciate the terseness of it more now when I'm like learning things like C. I'm like, God, I could do this in like 4 characters in Q, whereas in C I have to write a big for loop and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what things that's what this channel is supposed to do, is like kind of like writing things nice, but exploring different ways to solve the same problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put the link and all into the description of this so people can go check it out then.
Yeah, that's a great name, by the way.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, I asked, the first thing I was doing on ChatGPT was to get a good YouTube name, and I was like, this is like, actually, you know what, I have it here, so let me give you a couple of examples. So I asked it, I'm doing a YouTube channel, and this is the stuff I want to do about basically like algorithms, stuff like that. And it was all, here are some potential names. So Optimize Me, Algorithm Insight, Code Crafting, Binary Brain, Logic Lab, Algo Genius. And then I was like, I like this, say I like Binary Brain, could you give me more like that? And then it gives you more in like that kind of style. And then it was all, this is the one that I have. I was like, computational poetry is the one that I have. It's all, that's an interesting name, and you know what? It's quite good for what you've said it's fair and all. I was like, you know what? Then I'm sticking with that because ChatGPT said it was cool, so it must be cool.
Yeah.
See that, Michael? See that, Michael? Johnny beat the AI.
Oh yeah.
Simple as that. You see?
It's like the episode of The Office where Dwight tries to sell more paper than the computer. You beat.
I'm definitely going to give that a follow and have a wee watch after this, probably.
Cheers. You'll be my first subscriber.
Ah, yes.
Did Steve, you already went, didn't you, Stephen? You said about all the Apple TV stuff you're watching?
Yeah, just a bunch of Apple TV stuff. I think everything they're putting out recently, I think, is phenomenal. I think
it's getting so much hype, yeah. And I don't have it.
It's properly built on. Well, I get it for free because we have like, what's it called? It's called Apple One or something.
Right.
With the family. So you get like Apple Music and Apple TV and a bunch of other stuff for you can split it between the whole family instead of having to pay for each one individually. So it's much more, economical or whatever. But I get it through that.
Oh,
and
nice.
I've been trying to use it much more, but I've been pleasantly surprised by everything they have to offer. So
I have
it's
been
just
hearing
getting better and better.
more and more shows that are from Apple TV, which is really good. I would not get another streaming service right now, but I am increasingly thinking of cancelling something. In fact, but I don't pay for the Netflix that I use. It's my mum's Netflix. So.
You can't say that.
You can't say that.
Oh,
you can't say that.
Edit that out. It's my Netflix. But yeah, out of the ones that I pay for, I don't know if I could sacrifice any for Apple.
Yeah, I don't think right now. I don't think there's enough to justify like paying for a subscription specifically. As I said, I wouldn't have it if I didn't get it through Apple One. There's a lot. There's like a handful of shows on there which are phenomenal, but once you get through them, like right now, we're almost through all of them that I wanted to watch, and so we're kind of scraping the barrel now. So, but I do think they're trying to kind of kick that off properly because it's been around for a while, kind of not doing much. Mythic Quest was another show on there that I watched.
Heard great things about that.
There's written by the guys who do two of the guys who do Sonny, so Charlie and Mac, Rob, yeah. They're kind of they created the idea, and Rob stars in it as the sort of boss of this company who make an MMO, and it's really funny. It's not like Sonny at all though.
I forgot to mention that on my what we're consuming that I actually started that podcast, the Always Sunny one.
Oh, it's a great podcast.
Yeah,
it's great.
I should have said that as well. I've been we're listening through all the episodes again.
Oh really?
Yeah, and they tend to go off. So every episode's supposed to be about like an episode of the show.
They never talk about the show.
They never talk about it.
they go completely off topic, and it's really funny. Yeah.
There's one where like Dennis is just like the whole episode is just about Dennis trying to kick this door down or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny, and sometimes like Glenn's not there, so the actor for Dennis isn't like in the room physically, but they've replaced him with a sex doll from 14, 13, whatever it is. It's really funny. Anyway, that's a whole tangent. So we'll move on then to our last sort of section. So Johnny, do you want to introduce the next pick? I'll hand it over to you.
I love this part. I love hearing people's picks.
So, actually, me and Michael were out at the dairy match there the other day. So Michael was trying to guess what it was. I was pretty sure you knew what it was, Michael, but you were close in terms of what it's about, in terms of the time period it's set in. But unfortunately, you didn't know the actual book.
Yeah,
was it Jesus Times?
For the listeners, my guess was that this would be Catch-22.
And when is Catch-22 set again? Isn't it like World War II or something?
I can't remember which war it is, but yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, so my book is actually been a movie has just been released, which is one of the nominations for Best Picture, which is why, Michael, I thought that you would have known what this is, because you mentioned that on last week's episode.
Right,
episode. Yeah, so the book it's actually one of the most famous books kind of ever written about World War One. So it's All Quiet on the Western Front. So that's by Eric Maria Remarque. Obviously, Michael, you've seen the movie, and I mean, to be fair, it's not too hard to guess what this book's about, so I guess we're probably not going to play the game or nothing, but guessing, but just to
I don't think it really works without it when, it's not a fiction story.
Yeah, and like, I mean, the title of this is very, the Western Front is famous, for being in World War One, so, but yeah, it's actually from a German soldier's perspective, so it's actually Eric Maria Remarque was a German soldier. So it's quite different, than usually like a book written by one of the Allies, essentially. It's actually written from the other point of view. So yeah, that's also narrated by Tom Lawrence, is the one specifically, because I think there's actually a few of them versions of this. That's the Tom Lawrence narrating one.
Nice.
Great.
So the movie was just released on Netflix too, which me and Michael have seen. Stephen, have you seen that?
No, I've not seen it. I probably would have seen it if I still had Netflix, but I don't.
Yeah, it's in German, like, so you have to watch it either dubbed or you can watch it. I watch it with subtitles just.
I have no problem doing the subtitle thing.
Yeah, the movie's quite good as well. So I've never read the book. The movie, I heard about this book on like one of those course lectures thing. What was called again? The books that can change your life. So that's where I heard about it, and then like a week after I listened to that episode about this book, Netflix released that movie, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, is that based on this book? And then yeah, it was.
Are you in the Truman Show?
The Truman, exactly. So yeah, that's my pick. So it's about 7 hours long at normal speed. So
nice and
great.
breezy.
Perfect. I look forward to listening to that. Okay, well that's us for this episode. Thank you for listening, and I guess tune in next time for a discussion on All Quiet on the Western Front by, who was it by again?
Eric Maria Remarque, and read by Tom Lawrence.
Read by Tom Lawrence. Okay, that's us. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Laters.
Bye 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 bye.